We have a quorum with Chairman Visnaskis, Mr. Zemsky, and Mr. Valleja present. Is there a motion to call to order the meeting of the Housing Trust Fund Corporation?
Moved. Second.
And the authority's budget office has given us the approval to act also as the audit and governance committees. Is there a motion and a second to open up both of these meetings as well?
Second.
The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting on May 11th, 2017. If there are no questions or comments on the minutes are deemed approved. The second item on the agenda is a resolution approving the annual independent audit. Our treasurer, Stacy Mickle, is joined by Brendan Kennedy and Ann DeLuco of Sachs BST. They are our independent auditors. Stacy?
Good morning. Today is the annual submission of our financial statements audit for review and approval by the board. This is a requirement of the authority's budget office, and this is the formality to be able to allow us to submit this through the authority's budget office through the Paris reporting system. So I'm going to turn it over to Brendan to do a summary of our audit.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brendan Kennedy, and I'm going to give a brief presentation here on the scope of our audit, the deliverables that have been presented to you, and the results of our audit thereof. First and foremost, I feel it's very important for me to define the scope of our audit. I understand that as an authority and as an agency, and there's constantly audits going on around here. You obviously have federal oversight agencies, state oversight agencies. We are doing an audit of your financial statements. The corporation as a standalone authority is what we're auditing. We're auditing the financial results that you're presenting out. We did not do an audit of your compliance with federal requirements or state requirements. It is a financial statement audit. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear in our presentation. Okay? There's several deliverables here. The first is the financial report that you should have. That's the thicker document. It's approximately 30 pages, and it includes several components. The first, as you flip past the cover page and the table of contents that I will point out, is the independent auditor's report. This is the report that BST issues in relation to your financial statements. It's in a clarified format with headers and descriptions that articulate the different components of the report. As the board, the section you're probably most interested in is down at the bottom. It's the opinion. And as you can see here, we are planning to issue an unmodified opinion on these financial statements. An unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance that your auditors can give you, the board, that the financial statements are free of material error. Okay? So that's a good thing. There's a few other things that we have emphasized in here. One, we make note to the ongoing audits and regulatory reviews that the Housing Trust Fund Corporation is subject to in administration of their programs. At this point, there's nothing that we're reporting in relation to that. We're simply making an emphasis in our report, and we've made certain disclosures in the footnotes. The other thing we're emphasizing here in our report is the adoption of a new accounting standard. We early adopted Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 75, which deals with reporting of post-employment benefits. So those are the critical areas of the report that I would point out. Again, to reemphasize, an unmodified opinion or a clean auditor's report on this financial statements, that's the opinion that you earned, and that's the opinion that the board so desired. The content of the financial statements is relatively consistent with the prior year. So I won't get into any excruciating detail with the content of the statements, but I will point out the different sections that are broken out. Pages 4 through 7 of these financial statements are the management's discussion and analysis. So if you were not into English like I was in high school, I call this the Cliff Notes section of the financial statements. It's a higher level summary of the corporation's activities for the year. It gives some analysis, and it's very helpful in understanding at a big picture what happened at the corporation for the year ended March 31st, 2017. And again, the content and design is very similar to what you would have seen in the prior year. Pages 8, 9, 10 are the actual financial statements. That's our statement of net position, which is akin to the balance sheet. We have a statement of changes in revenues, expenses, and net position on pages 9. That's your income statement. And beyond that, you have your statement of cash flows. So if you're looking at page 9 of the statements, you can see that the corporation had a positive year. There was a $51,000 increase in net position to get us to a total of $316 million. Excuse me, I forgot some zeros. So overall, a positive year for the corporation. When you flip past the financial statements, you get to the detailed notes, and this is the detail of how the numbers came to be, what our policies are to account for certain things, and then more details about the individual numbers that are reported on the face of the financial statements. So, as I mentioned earlier in the auditor's report, we adopted Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 75. That's really the only change to the footnotes. There's enhanced disclosures on your post-retirement health benefits plan, and there's some additional required supplementary information that we've included behind the footnotes to the financial statements. So every year it seems like there's one more standard we have to follow, one more disclosure we have to make, and our financial statements just end up a couple pages longer, and the true was there this year. So beyond that's a quick overview of the financial statements. If anyone has any specific questions or comments, we'd be happy to address them, and if not, we'll continue on with the presentation. Okay. The next document I'd like to walk you through is what we refer to as our SAS 114 or AUC 260. It is a 8-page document that starts off with a cover letter. And this is our required communications to you, those charged with governance. And it just outlines a few things that we're required to disclose to you as part of our audit of your 2017 financial statements. The first I'll point out is accounting policies and practices. We did review the corporation's accounting policies and practices and determine them to be appropriate. Below that, we note the adoption of 2 accounting standards. Fair value measurements is simply a disclosure that we're making in the footnotes. And GASB 75 is the post-employment benefits that we've already talked about. So 2 new accounting standards. These were not changes in policies. These were standards we adopted to comply with U.S. GAAP. Okay? There was no significant or unusual transactions that we encountered. We did review management's judgments and accounting estimates and deemed those to be appropriate. We had a couple of small audit adjustments which are included in our management representation letter. That should be attached. And there was a couple of uncorrected misstatements, none of which we determined to be material and therefore passed in terms of recording on the unrecorded side. We had no disagreements with management. To our knowledge, there were no consultations with other accountants. We did discuss a few items with management as a result of the audit. We did discuss the ongoing HUD or IG audits that are being performed. And one of the other significant items we talked about was the acquisition of properties made by the corporation and how to value those. Because the purchase price may be different than the net realizable value. And in accounting, we have to report the assets at the lower of cost or market. So that was one of the more significant accounting discussions we had. We did not have any significant difficulties in the conduct of our audit, and any significant written communication is being provided to you. There's no other communication between us and management that was not disclosed to you. So those are our required communications.
Can I ask you one thing on the IG audits?
Yes.
I see that on page 2, you summarize the matter.
Yep.
You have a paragraph, and then when you look at the notes on page 25, you address it again, and in the notes you included a sentence to the effect that the HTFC has requested approximately $19 million back, and I don't see that. I don't see that sentence in the page 2. Was there a reason why that one? Because otherwise it seems very similar.
Well,
is there a reason?
we have the disclosure is going to be a little more detailed than our auditor's report. Here we're simply pointing out the ongoing audits and the amounts that have been requested or deemed to be requiring additional support. They're although similar, I believe we're looking at two different things here. So the footnote on page 25 is going to be a little more detailed than what we're pointing out. The footnotes, again, are also management's responsibility. We certainly work with management to ensure that the footnotes are clear and complete, whereas the auditor's report is at our discretion and what we think is important to disclose to you, the board.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help you?
I'd love to see the sentence in both, but it's fine. If you don't, it's fine.
Well, I tell you what, we can certainly. I don't know how that would impact the timing of the approval.
I don't know either.
Okay.
As long as it's-
Ting, if we make an adjustment to the statement there to accommodate that sentence on page 2, can we get an approval today for the audit with the understanding that that will be a modification that's made before we submit to the ABO?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Why don't we look into that after this meeting, and then we'll present that recommendation back to you folks through Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay? No problem. The next document I'd like to walk you through is our report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. This is a 2-page letter that's required under governmental auditing standards. It is a letter, or it is not an opinion per se on your internal control and your compliance, and it is specifically geared towards financial reporting. So it is different than a federal single audit that the state's auditors might do or any oversight auditor might do. We're looking for internal control and compliance that directly impacts the numbers you are reporting as part of this financial statement. And what you'll see is we have not identified any material weaknesses in internal control in financial reporting or compliance that would materially impact the financial statements as presented to you today. Okay. The last item that I'll bring to your attention is our what we call a control letter here, and the board should be mindful that there are different degrees of an internal control matter that we would report to you. So the worst possible thing would be a material weakness. A material weakness in internal control means there's a high probability the corporation is going to report inaccurate information. A significant deficiency is an instance where it's possible that due to the way the processes are designed, there could be a material error. A control deficiency is much less in severity. It's not necessarily material to the financial statements, but it's not so immaterial where we wouldn't necessarily bring it up in conversation with those charged with governance. So we did come up with a couple of suggestions in internal controls that we would report to you, and I believe those have been included in your materials. One relates to, this is the letter right here. One relates to collateral, and the other relates to the accounting policies and procedures relative to certain reconciliations. These are items that we've discussed with management. We believe that management is going to take the appropriate action. And again, they did not result in any material errors. They were just some observations that we feel will enhance internal controls as it relates to the corporation as a whole. So, and they're presented here for your consideration, but they're not matters that concern us to any significant extent.
Great, okay.
Okay? So those are my prepared remarks. If you folks have any questions, we'd be happy to address them now. If you think of your question tomorrow, next week, or the month after, BST is right here, based in Albany, although we're throughout the state, and we're always available to discuss any questions or comments or concerns you might have as the board of the corporation. So we're available on a year-round basis to not only you, but the corporation.
The only question I would ask is that, so in the course of your audit, you received the cooperation from agency staff? Full
That's
cooperation?
correct. We We received the full cooperation from everyone we encountered in the audit. Just as by way of a background, we did a significant amount of the work up here in the Albany area, and we also went down to Beaver Street where we visited the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. And so we did visit both locations, and everyone we interacted with cooperated in the conduct of our audit.
All right, thank you.
So for the Board and Audit Committee, is there a motion to adopt this resolution? Oh, excuse me, I should specify, adopt the resolution to adopt the audit report as modified.
Right.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. The next item is a resolution approving the annual procurement report and procurement and contract guidelines.
Good morning.
Lisa and Shin.
Good morning. The annual procurement report for HTFC is before the board for approval. It includes both procurement activity for HTFC and the Office of Storm Recovery. They have each of the Office of Storm Recovery and HTFC have separate guidelines. HTFC's guidelines exclude funding from CDBG DR monies. The HTFC MWB participation for this past fiscal year was 51.37%. And for the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, the MWB participation was 37.36%.
Great. Towards the 30% goal. Got it.
Any questions? So for the Board and Governance Committee, is there a motion and a second to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Right. The motion is carried.
It's like how we're voting.
Oh.
You're too quick.
In some instances,
You know what, I should be asking if all in favor say aye, so he gets the voice.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry. The next resolution is a resolution approving the annual property disposal report and property disposal guidelines. Ms. Mickle.
Good morning. As the board is aware, when Superstorm Sandy hit, we were awarded funding through the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Funding. Two major components of that award is the buyout and acquisition programs, which allow the corporation to purchase property. In one instance, under the buyout program, we purchased property to hold onto or transfer to another entity, which will make those properties forever wild. In the acquisition program, we are purchasing properties that we will ultimately sell for redevelopment. In the past fiscal year, we acquired 165 properties purchased through both the buyout and the acquisition program. And we subsequently sold 164 properties, some of which were part of the 165 purchased, but the majority of which were purchased in prior fiscal years. We are not making any recommendations to change the current property disposal guidelines, and we are now seeking approval of the report from the board. Are there any questions?
So for the Board and Governance Committee, assuming the same first and seconds as previously submitted, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Howard, is your mic on?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Perfect, yes.
There we go.
Thank you. The next item is a resolution approving the annual report on investments and investment policy. Ms. Mickle again.
Good morning again. The investment report, once again, is another compliance report for the authority's budget office. In the last fiscal year, we have invested a large number of our funds that range anywhere from developer escrow for the multifamily projects we handle to some of the programmatic funds that we draw from the state that we don't want to retain or cannot retain in our accounts because of collateralization. The New York State Treasury asks that we invest to the degree that we can so that they do not have to continue to maintain the collateralization. At the end of this fiscal year, we were holding a total of $176 million in investments in the various accounts, much of which is restricted to the primary use of the funds, whether it be for the program, for the repayments from mortgages, or admin specific to program. We paid out $372,000 to the New York State Commissioner of Tax and Finance as the administrator of those accounts. Are there any questions related to the investment
So
report?
Stacy, as a non-financial guy, I'm just looking at the investments. So I see 0 principal strip and 0 blah, blah, blah. Are these like treasury bill type things authorized under the statute, I'm assuming?
Yes, they are. There's various types. We have T-bills and we have Z strips and Z principal strips, Z coupons that we invest in. That's all part of the treasury bills.
Z good?
They're
Okay.
they're various
help.
rates, various time frames for investment, which is what the difference is in them.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you.
So assuming the same first and seconds for the board and governance committees, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
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 Great, this motion is carried. The next item is a resolution approving the mission statement performance report and readopting the mission statement. HTFC's mission statement is to further community development through construction, development, revitalization, and the preservation of low-income housing, the development and preservation of businesses, the creation of job opportunities, and the development of public infrastructures and facilities. In accordance with the initiatives of the governor, HTFC's mission has been expanded to further recovery, rebuilding, and resiliency efforts of homes, businesses, and public infrastructure and facilities in storm-affected counties throughout New York State. Performance and achievements can be measured by a review of the number and types of awards created and made, the areas of the state served, the number of businesses and jobs created or retained, the timeliness of decision-making, the amount of leveraging of awards, and compliance with all applicable laws. Additionally, for storm recovery efforts, performance and achievements can be measured by the review of the number of grants, loans, and credit enhancements made to assist the recovery efforts of eligible homeowners, small business owners, units of local government, and qualified not-for-profit organizations in storm-affected counties throughout New York State, and the timeliness of efforts. Are there any proposals to amend this mission statement? Okay. HTFC's performance has been set out for the last fiscal year, have been set out in the reports, not only for the mission statement performance report, but also in the next item, the operations and accomplishments report. And it is something that we've hoped that you've taken time to review, so they are pretty impressive, but we won't reiterate any of that now. Are there any questions on the readoption of the mission statement or the report?
Very nice presentation of the performance stuff. Really laid out very well.
Thank you. That's many thanks to staff that pulled all this information together.
Okay.
So assuming the same first and seconds as previously submitted for just the board, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
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 And for the resolution approving the annual report on operations and accomplishments, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
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 Thank you. The next item is a resolution approving the board self-evaluations. The board members are still, Board Member Wisniewskis, Chairman Wisniewskis, and Board Member Zensky are still filling these out. I'm hoping to have them before the end of June, and they will be submitted, and we will re-adopt them. We will pass adoption of these, of the aggregated results at the July meeting.
When's the end of June? Thursday? Friday? All right.
You want to- I have it in your papers. We can do it now.
Okay, thank you.
So we will table this item. The next item is a resolution authorizing an award under the Preservation Initiative Program for Academy Square. Ms. Fleischman.
Good morning. Academy Square is a 44-unit occupied affordable housing project located in the city of Utica. It is located on a single block, and the only other parcel on the block is a landscape vacant lot owned by St. John's Church. The project consists of two buildings. The first was a school constructed originally in 1890, and the second building was constructed in 1990, and both are encumbered under our turnkey regulatory agreement that runs through April of 2091. The 44 units also include 4 accessible units. The capital improvements to both of the buildings and the site are detailed in their briefing sheet before you and are quite extensive. The one I would like to point out is the replacement of the electric baseboard heaters. They'll be replaced with gas heat, hot water system, The project will then assume the cost of heat, it'll be included in the rent, so that the tenants will benefit by having reduced utility costs for electric use only. The rehabilitation described above, along with proposed restructuring of the rents and an anticipated tax exemption, will ensure the long-term sustainability of the project and also make it competitive with two other affordable housing projects that are located in close proximity. One was recently awarded tax credits, and the other one is currently under construction. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
There is one amendment that we would like to propose to the existing resolution, and that is to change the language of the first sentence to the members hereby approve an award of up to $5,491,011 from funds contingent on availability for PIP projects. And the remainder of that resolution stays the same. So as modified, assuming the same is there a new motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. This motion is adopted. Mr. Vallejo, for the record, has left, but we still have quorum for the next 10 minutes. The next item is a resolution authorizing an award under the Community Development Block Grant Program for Economic Development to the City of Oneonta. Mr. Purvis is presenting this item.
Good morning. My name is Jason Purvis. I'm representing Chris Leo. The City of Oneonta is requesting $160,000 in CDBG economic development funds to assist Nick's of Oneonta for the reopening of Nick's Diner. Nick's Diner was a staple establishment in Oneonta for over 90 years. It went through some closures and different owners. They finally have someone that's willing to open it back up and has reestablished a loyal customer base that it once had. There'll be a 24/7 establishment and really helping the downtown City of Oneonta with their economic development and their business development. The total project cost is $528,500, with anticipation of creating 11 full-time jobs, with 6 benefiting low to moderate income persons. The cost per job will be $14,545, and each dollar of CDBG funds will leverage $2.30 in private investment. We're requesting a recommendation resolution to provide CDBG economic development funds to the City of Oneonta for Nick's Diner.
Is there a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is carried. The next item is a resolution authorizing an award under the CDBG Program for Economic Development to the town of Canandaigua.
Canandaigua, yes. The town of Canandaigua is requesting $750,000 in CDBG economic development funds to assist Acoustis Technologies with machinery and equipment expenses to commence in their new 120,000 square foot production facility located in the town. Acoustis is a publicly traded company that focuses on developing and designing innovative radio frequency filter products for the mobile wireless device industry. They're looking to acquire a semiconductor wafer manufacturing operation from the Research Foundation of New York and the Fuller Road Management Corporation. This is going to allow them to internalize manufacturing, increasing their workflow and consolidating their supply chain. All of which mentioned there, they do everything that they do is in mobile wireless devices such as smartphones and tablets. The proposed total cost of just over $8.2 million, anticipated to create 74 full-time jobs, with 44 or 59% benefiting low to moderate income persons. CDBG funds will be used for machinery and equipment. The cost per job is $10,135, with each dollar in CDBG funds providing $9.95 in private investment. We're requesting a recommendation resolution to provide economic development funds to the town of Canandaigua for Acoustis.
Is there a first and second to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
And a second from Commissioner Zemski. Thank you. The motion is adopted. The next item is a resolution authorizing an award under the CDBG Program for Small Business Assistance to Madison County.
Thank you. Madison County is requesting $100,000 in small business funds to assist Heartstone Bakery to expand their facilities. They've been selling sourdough breads and baked goods to local restaurants and farmers market for quite some time. They've seen an increase in demand for their products and believe an expansion is necessary to keep up with growth. The expansion will include building an additional 2,000 square foot bakery and house a larger oven. The new oven will produce 140 loaves of bread every 30 minutes compared to just over 5 hours now. It'll also allow the bakery to expand their product line and begin selling laminated pastries, brioche breads, Bavarian pretzels, pasta, and granola. And they expect to open a retail location in the fall of 2017. The proposed total project cost is $315,000, anticipating to create 4 full-time jobs with 3 or 75% to benefit low to moderate income individuals. The funds will be used towards machinery and equipment. The cost per job is $25,000, which is within the small business program limitations. Each dollar in New York State CDBG funds will leverage $1.47 in private investment. We're requesting recommendation resolution to provide small business funds to Madison County for Heartstone Bakery.
Are there any questions on this item?
No, looks great.
Is there a first and second to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is carried. The next item is a resolution authorizing awards under the New York Main Street Technical Assistance Program. Mr. Purvis.
Thank you again. Thank you. These were consolidated into one. We're requesting, so the New York Main Street Technical Assistance Program was developed in 2013 and moved to an open round in 2016 to help with the timeliness of CFA applications for the Main Street program. We're requesting a total of $69,500 for the 4 projects that are listed for the MARC project, Andy's Main Street Assessment, the Town of Southport Building Feasibility Project, Troy's Historic District Design Guidelines, and the Hobart Inn Main Street Technical Assistance for Western Catskills Community Revitalization. Again, this is a total of $69,500 in this program with 4 projects, totaling for 4 projects. We're looking for a recommendation resolution to award the $69,500 to these 4 entities.
Where is Southport?
It's on Long Island. Yes.
Oh, okay. That's what I was defaulting to, assuming that's where it was, but I thought maybe there was an upstate Southport. Okay. Looks great.
Is there a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. The motion is carried. The next item is a resolution authorizing awards under the Public Housing Modernization Program. Mr. Colon.
So I want to introduce Linda Kozlowski, the supervisor grants unit in the federally aided Mitsumama portfolio, and Hazel Lewis, the director of the grants unit.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name again is Hazel Lewis. I'm with the New York State Homes and Community Renewal, 25 Beaver Street, Grants Unit. Today we're here to recommend PHM funding awards to 3 housing authorities. The 3 proposals for the balance of $2,450,000 are Kingston Housing Authority, Salamanca Housing Authority, and Wilder Housing Authority. You have the memos. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer at this time. Any questions?
No, not from me.
So assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. The next item is a resolution authorizing an amendment to the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program Inspection Services Agreement with CVR Associates. Mr. Abate.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Last month at the meeting, the board authorized the corporation to enter an agreement with CVR for an amount not to exceed $268,000. We come today asking for a 5% contingency for the potential overflow and fluctuation in federal funding with our program and with some similar inspection services for other state housing programs. In addition, we would like to expand the scope of services under the contract to now include the implementation and ongoing licensing of the web-based owner portal that I had also mentioned last month when I was here. The portal is something that would allow owners to set up their own secure accounts, be able to track documents, their submission for inspections, the results of those inspections, and also to track and all documents going back and forth between us and the families. The amount for the owner's portal is $105,000. So what we're now doing is seeking for the total revised aggregate cost of the agreement to not exceed $950,000 for the first 3 years of the contract. Any questions?
Sorry, just do the math again for me. So it's $105,000 for, what's the difference between the 950 and the 105? Just say that again.
So the original amount was 268 for 3 years, so 804.
Okay.
We're adding a 5% contingency on top of that, plus the 105.
Okay. Looks good.
Is there a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
Moved.
And Commissioner Ozemski, a second?
Second, yeah.
Thank you. This motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing an award increase and reauthorization of an award under the Low Income Housing Trust Fund Program for 444 River Lofts. Oh, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Good morning. Presented for your consideration is the first of 3 resolutions reauthorizing awards previously approved by the HTFC Board in May of 2016. Some history. In an effort to strengthen the Board oversight over projects previously authorized for award, the Office of Finance and Development recommended in the spring of 2014 that all resolutions authorizing capital awards automatically lapse after 360 days if a closing on all sources of construction financing sufficient to complete the project had not occurred. All 3 of the projects that are being recommended for reauthorization today have been delayed in large part due to a significant downturn in the equity markets for tax credit investments. This downturn was triggered by federal tax reform proposals that have called for substantial reductions in the maximum corporate tax rate. While there are still no specific proposals, tax reform proposals under consideration in Washington, the prospect of any such reductions has dampened investor interest in all manner of tax credit investments, resulting in sizable decreases in investor pay-ins as well as a lack of investors for some affordable housing projects. This first reauthorization is for 444 River Lofts, the historic adaptive reuse of a former textile factory in downtown Troy, into 74 units of mixed affordable and market rate rental housing. The original plan of finance for this project relied on a combination of historic tax credits, state low-income housing tax credit, otherwise known as SLIC, and a housing trust fund program low-interest loan. The weakening of the tax credit equity markets resulted in the project sponsor being unable to secure an investor for the state tax credits that had been awarded to the project. As a result, project sponsor, the Ficino Group, has requested that HCR eliminate the SLIC award to the project and replace it with additional HTF in the amount of $2,639,838. The sponsor is also requesting an additional $394,000 in HTF funds in exchange for increasing the number of affordable units in the project. If approved, the project would now be reconfigured to include an additional 17 affordable housing units, resulting in 47 affordable housing units out of the project's 74 units. In light of the significant progress that has been made by the developer and the expectation that this project will move to a construction financing closing in the next 2 months, the Office of Finance and Development recommends a reauthorization of the HTF award until August 31st, 2017, and an increase in the HTF award to an amount of up to $4,733,557. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Is there a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Moved. Second.
Thank you. The motion is carried. The next item is a resolution reauthorizing an award under the home program for Ethel T. Chamberlain House. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you. Thank you. The second reauthorization submitted for your consideration is Ethel Chamberlain, the historic rehab of a former apartment building in the city of Syracuse, into 16 supportive housing units for formerly homeless women with mental health and or substance abuse issues. The project also involves the use of the building's first floor for the Salvation Army's emergency women's shelter. At the time of application, the construction financing closing date for the project was proposed for September 2016, However, an extension of the finance closing was granted until November 30th, 2016 to allow additional time to obtain a final environmental clearance. However, prior to clearance, the project sponsor was unable to secure an investor to purchase the project's state and federal historic tax credits. As noted previously, the difficulty in securing an investor was not unique to this project, as the tax credit equity markets experienced significant contraction. In March of this year, the project sponsor secured a letter of interest from Twain Financial Partners to purchase the historic tax credits, and at this time the project is ready to move forward. Based on the current status of submissions, a construction financing closing on or before July 31st is anticipated. However, in order to provide some cushion in the event of unforeseen delays, the Office of Finance and Development is recommending a reauthorization until August 31st, 2017. I'd be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions?
I just have one. Sean, have you ever worked with Twain Financial Partners before?
We haven't. This is maybe a benefit of the downturn in the equity markets. We're seeing a new player that has an interest in doing historic-only deals, which we love doing. So we have not dealt with them before.
Okay. That's it for me.
Assuming the same first and seconds as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
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 Thank you. The motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing an award increase under the Home Program and reauthorization of awards under the Home Community Investment Fund and Low Income Housing Trust Fund programs for Chemung Crossing. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you. The final reauthorization submitted for your consideration is Chemung Crossing, the demolition and new construction of 31 units of affordable housing, and the historic rehab of 2 buildings that will result in 14 residential units, as well as ground floor commercial space in the City of Elmira's Business Improvement District. During pre-development of this project, the project sponsor was granted an extension for construction financing closing until April 2017, and subsequently encountered difficulties in securing an investor to purchase the project's federal low-income housing tax credits. The project sponsor has since engaged an investor, albeit at a pay-in of over 10 cents lower than what was anticipated at the time of application. Moreover, the current investor has backloaded equity pay-ins, driving up construction loan interest costs. In addition, NYSERDA has altered its funding formulas, resulting in a significant reduction in funding for the project's energy performance enhancements. As a result, a significant funding gap was created for the project. The project sponsor has taken several actions to reduce this gap, including securing CDBG funding from the locality and substantially increasing the deferral developer fee. Despite these actions, the project still requires a $807,000 increase in home in order to cover the remaining gap. Again, in light of the significant progress that has been made and the expectation this project will move to construction financing in the next 2 months, the Office of Finance and Development recommends an $807,862 increase in the existing home authorization, thereby authorizing a total home award of up to $1,422,410. Also, Finance and Development recommends a reauthorization of the existing CIF and HTF awards until August 31st, 2017. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
None for me.
Is there a motion and a second to adopt this resolution? And Commissioner Zemski, a second. Thank you. The motion is carried.
Second.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the transfer of properties under the buyouts and acquisition program. Ms. Gunther or Ms. White?
Good morning. My name is Rachel Weeder. I'm the Director of the Buyout and Acquisition Program at the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. I'm seeking approval to transfer 43 properties purchased in the buyout program to municipalities in Suffolk County at no cost. Properties purchased in the buyout program were damaged by Hurricane Sandy and are in high-risk areas. We demolish the homes and record covenants on the property so that they cannot be redeveloped in perpetuity. The fair market value of these properties is nominal because they cannot be developed on. And since we are an agency that will sunset in 2022, we do not want to hold on to these properties and maintain them in the long term. The municipalities are willing to take them at no cost.
Okay.
Mr. Valea, before he left us, also wanted to confirm that these were all not only under other guidelines, but also under our property disposals report compliance, policy compliance. Correct? Okay. Thank you. So assuming no other questions, or are there any other questions? Is there a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We have one remaining item of new business. It is a resolution approving a printing and mailing services agreement with FedCap Rehabilitation Services. Mr. Colon. Or,
President Joe
oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
That's
Rebate.
okay. Good morning again. We are seeking approval for an ongoing printing and direct mailing services for our Section 8 program necessary for the statewide administration of the Section 8 program. We currently administer over 44,000 Section 8 vouchers across the state, in which about 5,500 are here in New York City. This service would allow us to continue with our paperless operation, where every document would be transmitted PDF through secure servers to this company, and they would then do all of our printing and mailing to all of our families, all of our statewide programs, to include all of our inspection services that we're maintaining within the city. So our request is to enter into the agreement with FedCap Rehabilitation Services, and we are putting a 5-year period with this, with an annual expenditure not to exceed $50,000 a year.
Are there any questions on this item? Is-
No, come for me.
Is there a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
So moved.
Great, the motion is adopted. The remainder of the items are informational items, and in the interest of time, as I know we have some conflicts, I will not read these. However, they will be reflected as they are in the agenda in the minutes. So please let me know, does anyone have any requests for presentations or questions on any of the informational items?
Is that for me?
And Mr. Zemsky, any requests for presentations? Okay. Is there a motion and a second to adjourn the Board, Audit, and Governance Committee's meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. The meetings are adjourned.